Let's talk about crime shows. In a non-stop media stream filled with reality shows, cooking competitions, and whatever's happening in Westeros, police procedurals are probably as close as most of us are going to get to seeing science portrayed in primetime. And the techniques that crime fighters use to catch bad guys vary from show to show, but a lot of the time it involves forensics, which is basically the use of science in the field of law, in this case, criminal law. Different kinds of forensic investigators have different roles, like analyzing crime scenes or running tests in the lab. And they can specialize beyond that, focusing on analyzing DNA or bullets, for example. Generally, they all have an undergraduate degree in a scientific field, like chemistry or biology, or a more targeted degree in forensic science itself. Some have a graduate degree too, and medical examiners, or MEs, usually have a degree in medicine. But they all have one thing in common: using science to find, gather, and analyze evidence that can be used in court. However, Hollywood seems to think that real science doesn't always make for entertaining TV, so writers tend to take some liberties with how forensics really works. Most of the time they aren't completely off the mark. For example, the tests they use on the show might actually exist, but they wouldn't be nearly as fast or accurate in real life. And the technology they use is just ridiculous. We're here to clear that up and talk about what forensics can actually do, which turns out to be pretty interesting all by itself. And to do that, we're going to solve a hypothetical crime. So here's our case. Someone finds a dead guy in an alley in Chicago. The cops secure the scene and the forensic investigators show up around 11 p.m. to gather clues. When they go through the victim's pockets, they find a receipt for a bottle of soda from a nearby convenience store time-stamped at 5 p.m., 6 hours earlier. And, according to the ID in his wallet, his name is Bob. The medical examiners want to know how long Bob has been dead, which could be key to finding and catching his killer. So there are a few things they can check, and they all happen to end in the word mortis, which makes sense because that just means death in Latin. First, there's livor mortis, or how the blood pools. Now that Bob's heart isn't distributing his blood anymore, it just goes where gravity takes it, and that makes the skin look purplish from the outside. But if a body's been dead for more than 12 hours, the blood will have coagulated or dried. It stays in place, and if you shift the body, the blood won't pool in a new spot. Now, Bob's blood seems to still be very liquid, so he's been dead less than 12 hours, though of course the examiners already knew that since he was alive and well in the convenience store only 6 hours ago. Next, they check if rigor mortis, the stiffening of the muscles after death, has set in. And rigor mortis is proof that your muscles work in kind of the opposite way than you might expect. Since running and lifting weights and doing things that require your muscles is hard, you might think making your muscles contract requires a lot of energy. But that's not true. Your body actually uses energy to make your muscles relax, not contract. So after someone dies and their muscles stop getting chemical energy, their muscles can't uncontract, so their bodies stiffen. This effect starts about 2 hours after death and lasts until about 36 hours in, when the muscles decompose enough that they can't hold their position anymore. In Bob's case, rigor mortis does seem to have set in. He's frozen in place, so the body's probably more than 2 hours old. They'd like to get a more accurate number though. If the body is close to 6 hours old, that means he was probably murdered right after he left the store. So they take the body's temperature. Rectally, a detail they don't normally show in crime dramas, and it's 29 degrees Celsius. Now, normally, a body loses heat at a rate of about 1.5 degrees Celsius per hour, a process known as algor mortis. When Bob was alive, his body temperature would have been 37 degrees, so it's lost 8 degrees so far. You'd think Bob's been dead for very close to 6 hours. And in a TV show, the ME would probably say that. But there's a problem. This is a cold winter evening in Chicago, and it's about 5 degrees outside. The body's going to lose heat a lot faster to the colder air, but it's hard to tell exactly how fast. Given all the information they've gathered, our MEs put the time of death between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. There's no way to tell if Bob was murdered right after he left the store or 2 hours later.